Want to win money on sports? With Underdog, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash just by picking higher or lower on your favorite players' stats. Millions of fans have won billions of dollars on Underdog. Will you be next? Download the Underdog app and sign up to get a free pick with your first cash entry up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Welcome in to It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. Yes, still sunny. I'm Austin. You can find me on Twitter at RealBirdLawyer. Not posting there quite as much. We did the blue sky thing for a while, and I got to tell you, the momentum feels real this time. I am bird law expert on Blue Sky, which is the handle that I always wanted on Twitter, but there was a dead account from like 15 years ago that had that name, and they never tweeted and they never posted, and it's probably been sold now to some sort of right-wing influencer to peddle Elon's propaganda. Who knows? I haven't checked because I haven't checked Twitter in a couple of days, except for 5 minutes ago to get the injury report. Anyway, here with me as always, my co-host Taylor at Taylor_Witt on Twitter, and IASIC on the Sky. What's going on, buddy?
Not just IASIC as in like iasic.bsky.social or whatever. So what Blue Sky lets you do is lets you self-verify. And if you own a domain name, you can register that domain name with Blue Sky, which I've done for our podcast, iasic.com. And now my handle on Blue Sky just says at iasic.com. Now, this will change in the near future. I have a request in with Blue Sky how to figure out how to get both you and I into the IASIC realm on their handles, so we can tag bird law expert at iasic.com. But for now, I have the first chunk of that. I wanted to make sure I got myself verified and ready to go in Blue Sky because, as you said, with the momentum thing, it feels real. This does not feel like Threads. Threads felt like we were all really just going through the motions. Like, yeah, you can find us on Threads. We might thread about it. But there was no, like, real, actual, intent and feeling behind it. This one feels different.
I agree. I agree. It feels like the best parts of Twitter without any of the bad parts of Twitter. And my goodness, there are a lot of bad parts these days. So find us on Blue Sky. I have been splitting my time, but I got to tell you, after I swapped their locations, the apps on my phone,
that's the hardest part.
Brains are pretty easy to trick, as it turns out. And so now my brain and my fingers and my muscles just go reflexively to Blue Sky. And it's been a lot of fun. We got a great show for you guys. Despite the loss, we're going to talk about news. We, of course, have to address the elephant in the room, the Chiefs' first loss of the season to the Buffalo Bills. That means the return of the MAC. That is our system to break down Chiefs' losses. It stands for mourn, accuse, and cope. So we will do that. And we will preview, I guess, the Chiefs game this weekend. They're traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Not an incredibly interesting game. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but it'll be fun anyway. I'm sure it'll be good. Let's hit it. So starting off with the injury report, great news for the Chiefs on that front. Everyone fully participated with the exception of the two guys returning from the injury reserve. Isaiah Pacheco and Charles Omenihu were both limited on Wednesday, but they are both working their way back. We actually heard last week that Pacheco should be fully healthy for this game. Sounds like they're being a little bit cautious with him. He has that ankle injury, of course, limited participation. Omenihu, it doesn't sound like we know for sure whether he's going to play this weekend or not. He obviously is rehabbing from that horrible knee injury that he suffered in the AFC Championship game against Baltimore, but he is in his 21-day window, and we're now 7 days into that window. So if it's not going to be this week, it's going to be soon. And it'll be nice for the Chiefs to get healthier, both in the backfield and definitely on the defensive line.
Yeah, they need a lot of help right now. I know they're 9-1, but as we all know, they've been, running on fumes a little bit on both offense and defense, and a little juice into both rooms, into both, sides of the ball, are certainly not going to hurt. Speaking of juice, I did see a rumor. I know we don't. We like to make things a little bit more. We don't like to peddle in rumors as much, but Matt Derrick did say that Hollywood seems like he's pretty much going to come back in the next couple weeks. Like he was saying that the rehab is going so well that he would not be surprised if they open up his window next week. I mean, coming up. So, getting guys back. It's fun. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and that is amazing news. I actually had not even heard that yet. I guess I need to follow Matt Derrick on the Sky. So I missed out on that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
incredible news because obviously when he first went down, we were hoping to get him back mid-season, and then he had the setback, and it was a question of whether he would return at all. As recently as a couple of weeks ago, I know Albert Breer was saying they didn't think they were going to get him back for the playoffs, and now it sounds like not only are they going to have him for the playoffs, he's going to get at least a couple, maybe 3 or 4 regular season games before the playoffs even start, which would be incredible because he made it one play into the first preseason game. Now, obviously, he got to go through training camp. He knows the playbook, but just being able to get back into a rhythm with
Fire
Patrick
some live
Mahomes,
bullets.
get some live bullets, take some hopefully soft-ish
Right.
hits.
Yeah, you're like, take some hits.
Yeah, I mean, take some hits in a way that is going to get him into game shape, but hopefully not get him re-injured. Incredible news. It sounds like he could be back, maybe even, I mean, certainly by. And the Chiefs have that really tough stretch of games too around Christmas, where they have to play on short rest. They're taking on the Texans, which is the toughest. I mean, I guess the Steelers maybe are the toughest remaining game on
Yeah.
their schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, by record alone. But in any case, they play the Steelers in December too. So we've got some
On
tough games coming
Christmas.
up. It would be great to get Hollywood Brown back for those games. And speaking of wide receivers, the Chiefs added a wide receiver this week. Tyquan Thornton, come on down. Former Patriots wide receiver. He is signed to the practice squad. You may remember Tyquan Thornton as the 50th overall pick in the 2022 draft. Now, why would you remember that pick? It's because it was the Kansas City Chiefs pick that they received from Miami for the Tyreek Hill trade. And the Chiefs traded back from 50 to 54 and got another selection that they used to take, I believe it was Darian Kennard. I didn't write
That
that
sounds
down.
right. The 5th rounder. Yeah, I believe that's
and
correct.
they used that pick to draft Sky Moore. So this is a cursed trade, and I hope Tyquan Thornton is able to find a path onto the roster and have a long and productive NFL career. But when you were the guy that was traded back for Sky Moore, the Patriots traded up to take Tyquan Thornton, the Chiefs took Sky Moore. These have to be like two of the biggest busts in the second round for wide receivers in recent memory. I mean,
And who do they sandwich?
yeah, exactly. George Pickens, who obviously has been a standout player for the Steelers, a guy that a lot of Chiefs fans were clamoring for the Chiefs draft. And bad move by the Patriots, bad move by the Chiefs. Tyquan Thornton, really not a good player at all, but he is very fast. He ran a 4.2840, and he actually ran an unofficial 4.21, which would have been an NFL combine record until, of course, Xavier Worthy. So he ran an unofficial 4.21. He ran an official 4.28, which is the difference between, by the way, being the fastest combine 40 ever before Xavier Worthy and the third fastest 40 at the combine in 2022, right? That's the difference. 0.7 is the difference between the fastest ever and the third fastest that year. But still,
Crazy.
I mean, a very fast player. He's a guy that has a little bit of experience returning. He did some of that in college for Baylor, had a great year his last year in college with the Bears, 948 yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, I'm not expecting a lot from this. And I'm surprised that, I mean, congratulations to the Patriots for pulling the trigger. I really thought Sky Moore might be the first second round wide receiver from the 2022 draft. But Patriots make sure to make the Chiefs look good. And now the Chiefs have both of those guys. You got 2 second-round picks from the 2022 draft.
Uh-huh.
2 picks. Incredible.
Yeah, we could just act like the Chiefs just traded for Tyquan Thornton then and just decided instead of picking George Pickens, we're going to get 2 guys and we're going to
Yeah, 2
get
guys.
Sky
2
Moore and
guys.
Tyquan Thornton, and 2 guys are better than one. That's
And you
so
got
maybe
Darian
that's what
Kennard.
they
So,
planned.
I mean, that's 3 guys. Now, none of them have ever done anything of significance in the NFL at all, but heck,
But who has?
you got 3 of them.
Join over 5 million fans that are already playing Underdog with their Pick'em game. You could win money by making entries with your favorite players. You could win up to 1,000 times your money. 1,000's pretty good by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns. You name the stat, you can pick them. Every dog deserves a second chance, a motto that I certainly appreciate from Underdog. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. We all know in football, those injuries are rough. Chiefs fans know that more than anybody. We love the vulture protection. If you designate a running back to score a touchdown in your pick'em entry and they get vultured by their backup running back, we will rescue your entry. Underdog will. So that's cool. This week on Underdog, I am looking for the Chiefs to take their anger out on the lowly Carolina Panthers. So I'm going higher on DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy 0.5 touchdowns and lower on Bryce Young 0.5 passing touchdowns. The route is on. Hashtag keep pounding the Panthers. Download the app today. Use promo code KINGDOM, KINGDOM, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Download the app today. Promo code KINGDOM, $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Select higher or lower in your favorite players. Cash in on Underdog. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369.
Well, we got to talk about it, Taylor. The Chiefs drop their first NFL football game in 11 months, almost a calendar year. The first game that they have lost since the Christmas Day embarrassment to the Las Vegas Raiders last season. And, I mean, we had this conversation off air, and yes, you may have deduced our intelligent listeners from the fact that we talked about the undefeated stuff last week. We kind of had a feeling that this could be a possibility, but it still hurt. This Bills team has been really good. They have the second best record in the NFL this year behind the Chiefs. They've won a lot of quality games. They've done so in dominating fashion. They have the guy that we both believe is the second best quarterback in the NFL, and Josh Allen. This wasn't a huge shock, but it still hurt a surprising amount.
Yeah, it did. We always emphasize, you and I do, the showdowns with the other AFC elites, and especially the AFC elite quarterbacks. It just means more in those games. And whether those teams are, knocking on the door of like, whether it's like a playoff positioning battle or whether it's just bragging rights, whether it's just narrative and it's just Patrick Mahomes versus the world type of stuff, it always seems to have a little extra juice to it. And we've now done Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes 8 times. It's crazy that it's been that many, but they just meet all the time. Obviously, the 3 playoff meetings have gone Mahomes' way, but the regular season is now 1-4 Mahomes against Allen.
And 4 straight losses.
4 straight losses because they began with a win in Buffalo in 2020, and then the last 4 regular season games have been, and a couple of them were close, and 2 of them were ass kickings. This was kind of in the middle. This was a 9-point win, but it was, the Chiefs were at least hanging with them for most of the game until the 2-minute warning. But the Bills certainly bring it against the Chiefs more than any other team. For sure. I mean, there have been some the Bengals had like a blackout stretch where they just for 1 year they beat the Chiefs 3 times and they felt like they owned them and Burrowhead and all that stuff. And then they've been garbage since then against the Chiefs. And the Bills, they can't get it done late in the year against the Chiefs, but boy, if that calendar is December or earlier, they have the Chiefs number. It's crazy.
Yeah, they do. And I'm say this every week just because it's sort of like it's a thing that industry people do, podcasters, whatever, like I remind people of our awards and the
Yeah,
Chiefs system and what it means. You We may legitimately have listeners that have not heard us
yeah,
recap a loss before. Because it's been almost a year since we've done it, and we have a special system for losses. We have the Chiefs system for wins. We have the MAC for losses. Mac means mourn, accuse, cope. It, of course, is a play on the Mac from
move in
the
after
Dennis system.
completion.
Move in after completion. Mourn, accuse, cope. So we have a lot to mourn from this loss. And I mean, to begin with, the obvious one, the possibility of the undefeated season, which we talked about last week. And it's ironic that, we were talking about the shelf life of being able to even talk about the possibility of an undefeated season is so short.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
point proven, it's over. We can't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, it's a bummer. You only get to chase a couple like immortalities in your fandom. Like for us as Chiefs fans, there aren't going to be that many times. Now, we had 9-0 in 2013, but no one in 2013 was talking about 17-0. And I mean no one, because that team didn't have Patrick Mahomes. That's really the difference, is that, if you get to a 9, 10, whatever, like you remember the Steelers a couple years ago? They were, I think, 10-0 maybe. They certainly got to around 9 or 10. But like, no one was like, oh, could this Steelers team go undefeated?
Right.
They had the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger, and they were
Right.
they were getting by on defense and all that stuff. But when you have a two-time MVP, three-time Super Bowl champion at quarterback, and you're 9-0, people start to, the sports shows were leading with like, could the
And
Chiefs
this
go
was
17-0?
this was the game. This was the
This
game
was
that
the
they
game.
had to win because
Yeah,
once they got past this game, it was a real possibility. And
it
this was
was.
really the last. I mean, the Steelers are still on the schedule, the Texans are still on the
Sure.
schedule, but
NFL teams are
this
on the schedule. Like, it's
right.
always going to be
Right.
hard, but this was the hardest game on the schedule. So now we are mourning the undefeated season.
Now, there are a number of streaks that were snapped with this game, which
Ugh,
you have pulled the data on, and I can hear the disgust in your voice. But since you
I'll go
did the
through
legwork to pull
them.
these out, why don't you just list off
Yeah.
for us all of the illustrious streaks that have been busted by this defeat?
Now, these were pulled off the top of my head 1 second after defeat. And not I know the numbers, but what I'm saying is there are probably other streaks. I mean, the Chiefs
Oh,
were
I'm sure there are.
very,
Sure, right. I get you.
definitely a team that puts together a lot of these types of numbers. But the first things I thought of at the end of this game were not only the 9-0 and the 15 game streak, winning streak, which of course, the record's 21. And so the Chiefs were 6 games away. An undefeated regular season would have also gotten them
Yeah.
the NFL winning streak, which would have been amazing. And that's a Patriot streak. So that's another Tom Brady accomplishment that Pat could have chased, but that is no more. Games allowing 28 points or fewer. This was a crazy streak. This was
It was.
30 straight games that the Chiefs defense went without allowing more than 4 touchdowns, more than 28 points. And, 28, I mean, in modern NFL, like, it's pretty easy. A lot of teams, you'll look at a lot of scores around the league every week and guys are over 20, or teams are over 28. That's certainly not like a, you know, um, it's crazy that they went 30 games. That's almost 2 full seasons without
Yeah, I mean, it
allowing
was the
that.
Phillies Super Bowl. It was the last
It
time they
was.
had
It was
allowed
the
more than
Super
28
Bowl.
points.
They had won another Super Bowl since the last time
Right.
they had allowed 30 points in the Super Bowl that they also won. So that was crazy. How about this is crazy. This is an NFL record. Games won in a row when trailing by 7 or more points at any
Yeah,
point in the game. Nine. 9 games in a row. If
that's
you had the
crazy.
Chiefs down a touchdown or more, the Chiefs came back and won that game every time. I mean, there's a reason that's an NFL record. That's crazy. This
It
team
is
had
crazy.
such comeback ability, and they just never really considered themselves out. They still don't, but that's the end of that streak, because obviously the Bills won by more than 7. They had them down by 7 and they beat them. Games won in a row when trailing in the second half. Also 9, also an NFL record.
Mm,
That
mm.
is that's so sad to lose that. That's just one of those where they had
Now
pulled
that's
out
a streak
so
that's
many
made to
in a
be
row.
broken. I mean, all streaks are made to be broken, but
You're
like
right.
You can't.
The next time you lose, you're going to lose that streak.
And
You can't.
it's an unsustainable. I mean, by
Correct.
definition, it just is. You're losing
Yes.
in the second half. You're gonna lose those games.
Correct. That's right. I mean, that's why 9 of those is insane, and that's 9 out of the 15 that they had won
Which
in a
is also,
row. So
right.
9 of
Absolutely
15 of
crazy.
those they had trailed in the second half, and yeah, games won as the underdog in a row. Six games in a row that the Chiefs came into the game as the underdog and won the game, and of course. The last time they lost that was a home game against Buffalo on the Kadarius Toney lining up off sides. But since then, underdogs to the Eagles, underdogs at the Bills, underdogs at the Ravens, underdogs in the Super Bowl against San Francisco. That's 4. And then underdogs at San Francisco this year and underdogs at Buffalo. So sad stuff there. The last games not losing by 2 or more scores. They had gone 22 games in a row since the Denver
It's
blowout
crazy.
last year. And even more insane than 22 in a row, 63 of their last 64 games that they had played, they did not lose that game by 2 or more scores. That is
Ridiculous.
just, I think that type of result there probably underscores the Mahomes era almost more than any other, including the Super Bowls. Just the fact that the Chiefs, that we are so stressed as Chiefs fans because, I feel like also blowouts, like at a certain point, you're down 21-0 in the second half or whatever, and it's just like, all right, well then I guess this game isn't stressful. They're just kicking our ass.
Yeah,
It's
I'm gonna go do
annoying.
something else with my
Yeah,
Sunday.
like it's not a down to the wire. It's not a, trying to hold on to a lead or whatever. It's just the Chiefs are always in the game, which I love and it's great. And I wouldn't have it any other way because it means they're the best team in football. But like 63 out of 64 of the last games they played, they did not even lose the game by 2 or more scores. That's an unbelievable streak. And then 2 more notes. The Chiefs are now 0-3 in franchise history, going for 10-0
Mm.
with losses to the Bengals in 0-3, the Broncos in 13, and Buffalo in 24.
Oh gosh, 3 of my favorite teams too.
Yeah, that's why I listed them because that one hurts quite a bit. And finally, Josh Allen becomes the first quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes head to head a 4th time.
Mm. It's tough. It's tough to hear all those streaks that are lost, and I don't know. I mean, like so much of what we do on this show is putting historical events that we are experiencing in real time in their proper perspective. And
Mhm.
it's like we don't know how the season is going to end. We don't know how the regular season is going to end. And obviously, if the Chiefs go on, I mean, they might not lose another game the rest of the year, and they might go on and win the Super Bowl. And we'd be talking about them as one of the most dominant teams of all time and one of the greatest stretches in franchise history. But this could also be, a tipping point for the season, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there have been so many opportunities for this season to go in the opposite direction, and they've been able to stave off collapse and calamity. They were able to do it 9 weeks in a row, despite the injuries, despite the poor play, despite the inconsistencies on offense and then the inconsistencies on defense. They were able to put all of that in a box and then just light the box on fire and throw it out the window and say, whatever, we won.
So I hate to even bring this up, but the last 2 times the Chiefs started 9-0 before this year,
Yeah.
2013, they started 9-0. They finished 2-6 over the last 8 games.
Yep.
The 2003 squad started 9-0, finished 4-4. So if the Chiefs go any better than 500 over the last, however many games we're blessed with to watch this team this year, it'll be an improvement over the last couple times they were 9-0.
And I mean, I don't even want to speak this into existence, but I know our longtime Chiefs fan listeners are saying, yeah, they also lost in the first round of the playoffs both of those years. So, it is what it is. But
actually, the 13 team broke the playoff streak, and
did it?
that's the team that beat Houston
No,
in
isn't
the
that the team?
no,
That's the team that lost to the Colts. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. I'm
I mean,
sorry.
that's
I
the
was
team
conflating
that blew one of the biggest leads in playoff history and lost in
They
heartbreaking fashion.
absolutely did 45-44.
Yeah. Yeah. So
my brain was like, "There's no way that happened." Also in
no,
that year,
right.
that had to have been another year. They beat the Texans that year.
That was Andy Reid's first season. So
That
they started off 9-0, obviously after having been the worst team in football the previous year, and then we're going to break the playoff streak. And then,
Yeah.
stuff
They were
happened
up
and
38-10. I
yeah,
mean, it
stuff
was
happened.
Jesus.
Stuff happened. We'll get to cope. I don't want to waste all of my cope on Morn because that's a different
Yeah, you're
letter.
right.
Let's get to
You're right.
accuse. And accuse, as the name would suggest, is where we apportion blame for what happened in this game. And I mean, I'll start.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes was not very good in this game, and it's been it's been a tough year. Now he did throw 3 touchdowns. He had 2 picks. One of those picks was a
Late.
desperation interception on, the last drive of the game where the Chiefs literally almost don't have enough time to score twice and they'd have to get an onside kick in there to do it. I mean, the game's
Right.
over. So at
Right.
that point,
Right.
it really shouldn't even count. It's actually a little bit annoying that it
It's
does
like a
count.
kneel down.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a kneel down, it's like a punt, but I mean, the offense just, it's not even that the offense was bad in this game because they did have some good moments. And that I think is what's so frustrating about this and why I have to accuse the offense first. I mean, the first interception was on the second play of the game,
Mhm.
and it immediately gives the Bills the ball back. I mean, the Bills win the kickoff, the Chiefs have the ball first, and the second play of the game, Pat throws it to Noah Gray, it gets intercepted, and the
Bad
Bills
throw,
go
too.
right down and yeah, a bad
Just
throw, and the
sailed it.
Bills just go right down and score a touchdown, and the Chiefs are in a 7-0 hole. And you know the the offense has a lot of different pieces that we can accuse. Obviously, the left tackle situation continues to be a huge problem. Xavier Worthy, who actually was very good in this game. I mean, like this could have been the Xavier Worthy game, but once again, he lost a battle with the sideline on a play that like he just needs to have better awareness that could have been a touchdown.
Absolutely.
And
It's a 40-yard pass. I mean, at least would have put the Chiefs in prime.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. If he doesn't score, it's at least, they're in position to do something with it. And you know, it just is it's frustrating too because when it's nut cutting time in the fourth quarter, and where the Chiefs have been so good this year, and they needed to score, they were able to go down and score. I mean, with 12 minutes left in the game, 70 yards in 10 plays, they go down and score a touchdown. The problem is it wasn't good enough. It was too little, too late, and that really has been one of the things, sort of underlying this whole 9-0 start was like, yeah, they've been able to turn it on when they needed to, but what happens when you play a team that is good enough that like you can't just turn it on at the end and win the game, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
what happens when you go up against a team that and you take the first 3 quarters off and you let that team do what great teams do and put you in a hole? What happens when you can't just turn it on in the fourth quarter and win the game? And that's what we saw happen.
And we also saw another team that could also turn it on. Like that's the thing
Right.
is that,
Yeah.
a lot of times the Chiefs rely on the other team to be bozos, to
Right.
not be able to execute down the stretch, to not be able to go put the game away with a touchdown drive late, because most of the time the Chiefs defense has been good enough to stop that from happening. This game, they were not. So I am going to, sadly,
Buffalo with a 4-minute touchdown drive and then an 8-minute touchdown drive after the Chiefs scored there. 12
sure,
plays,
absolutely.
753 on that
And I
last
mean, the
touchdown drive of the
last
game.
two Buffalo drives were a 10-play, 83-yard, 6-minute touchdown drive and a 12-play, 70-yard, 5-minute touchdown drive. Those are Chiefs drives.
Yeah.
That's the fourth quarter. That's what the Chiefs do, is they do a double-digit late back-breaking drive when they're up 2 to go up 9, and then the other team scores, and then they go back up 9 with 2 minutes to go. That is like vintage Chiefs, and that's what Buffalo did, and that's because the
And
Chiefs
Josh
couldn't
Allen scoring on
turn
fourth
them
and two.
off.
I mean, like
Yeah.
that was the game. They could
That
have
was
stopped him,
absolutely the game. And I
but
mean,
they
they
didn't
could have
stop
stopped
him.
him several times, and they didn't. The Bills were deadly with the Josh Allen runs, especially, they would sneak on 3rd and 1, and they would,
Hmm. It would be
have, I
fun to
mean,
be able to sneak.
it would be
How about we
really
pop that
fun.
accusation out there? I saw you skying about this during the
I
game.
did. I did. I skeeted about it. We're definitely going to accuse Matt Nagy and Andy Reid and the offensive brain trust in this team, whoever that may be, for taking the quarterback sneak
Dude, it would
out
be
of
so
the
cool if we
bag
could quarterback sneak. Are you kidding me?
for 5 years. This is not like if it had just happened last year or whatever, I understood for a while. It happened in 19 until about halfway through 20. I was like, don't let him sneak. Don't let him do anything ever that's risky to him. I mean, it was the worst thing that had happened
Yeah,
when he had his
right.
injury. But like, it's been 5 years,
Yeah,
and he's a beefy 29-year-old. This is
yeah,
not a little twink little guy that is like a 23-year-old rookie. This isn't Tua out there. It's not.
right.
It's Patrick Mahomes. He leveled a 49ers defender running into the end zone, put his shoulder down, smashed through the big giant safety. Like, he's a man.
Shoot,
And
he's like diving headfirst in the preseason
yes,
games when he gets out there. He'll
yes,
play
like
like
this.
one drive in the preseason. It'll be like the
Yeah,
first drive of the preseason, and he'll
yeah,
be up there like literally leading with his helmet, like diving for the
correct.
first down. And let's not forget, sure he's been dinged up, but like that's literally the only serious injury of his entire
It's the only
career.
time he's missed
Knock on
games.
wood, like God bless him, and I
Yeah,
hope that luck continues. But like, it just goes to underscore what a freak incident that was. And you don't
yes,
throw away the most effective play, short yardage play
92%.
in the history of the NFL because of one freak accident 5 years ago. You don't do it.
No, nope. And other teams, watching the Eagles and the Bills, the two teams that definitely do this to the highest degree of success. I mean, other teams will sneak, but like when the Eagles have 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 or 2nd and 1 or fourth and goal at the one or whatever, it's never not the tush push. And
Right.
when the Bills line up, it's either a very easy and obvious giant Josh Allen sneak, or they spread everybody out wide and they just let him quarterback draw it, and they use his legs as a offensive advantage. And this is not like Lamar's legs where it's like, he's extremely fast and they design some quarterback design runs or whatever. This is just knowing that you have a numbers advantage when the quarterback can run and you can spread them out and look everybody. And like, you don't think Pat would be the greatest running quarterback if they designed an offense around the quarterback running? He knows
Yeah.
everywhere that everyone's going to be. He's athletic. I don't understand why they are so afraid. Now, he does it himself when he's running around and when he's scrambling and running for his life. And then he'll have the best plays of his whole career where he's
Right.
scrambling and just takes off. And it's like, oh my God, that was extremely effective. But it's never a designed run, ever. When was the last time we've ever seen a designed run from Mahomes?
I mean, probably, yeah, probably not ever. And also,
Right.
like, I mean, I can remember one actually. The option play they ran in the Super Bowl against
Yeah.
the Niners. I
Yeah.
think it was the first Niners Super Bowl they ran an option
Correct.
play
In
right after
54.
Rose
Yeah.
Bowl that he
Yeah.
went in for a touchdown. And
Did.
I think they maybe have run a few option plays. I don't know if you would consider that like a designed run because obviously he could pitch
Pitch
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point
But
is, they don't design the offense around his athleticism. They design it around him being a pocket quarterback, which, God love him. He's a great pocket quarterback,
he's
but
incredible
like
at it.
he has more to offer. And so we're going to accuse the offensive philosophy behind this team. And I mean, some of that's also the just like the acquisition of talent on the offensive side. And we can go through.
You accusing Brett Veach here?
I am. I'm accusing Brett Veach, and this is partially the high draft picks on offense, and I'm talking as
Yeah.
far back as Clyde, and I mean obviously Sky and Kingsley and Xavier and who am I missing here? McCole.
I mean, you can go back to McCole Hardman, sure, yeah.
Sure, those are all 1st and 2nd round picks. So I'm not saying that you have to hit on every single pick every single time. I'm not picking 5th round guys that, Cornell Powell doesn't matter to me here. But what matters is using a top 64 pick on an offensive player and that player not being. Now, they got Creed Humphrey and God bless him forever for that pick. That was a great pick. He's an all-timer at center. But like the hit rate is pretty low on acquiring talent through the draft on the offensive side of the ball in the Brett Veach era. And
Yeah, it is.
so, I get it. He was responsible for bringing the GOAT in, and he will get a lifetime pass. I will love Brett Veach forever. That was the greatest transaction in my life was drafting Patrick Mahomes. But like, let's figure out this drafting business on offense. Let's do that.
I'm going to accuse, I'll throw out another accusation here. And this is, please, listeners, do not interpret this as cope
Right.
in response to what you just said. This is sort of just, it's sort of just a different take on things, a different spin on things. We're still accusing, we're not coping yet. I will accuse the injuries. The injuries have gotten out of control.
That's
Uh,
good.
I think I, I'll say like the defense has not been good the last 3 weeks. They've really kind of fallen
Hmm.
off a cliff. They were not
What coincided with the last 3 weeks, Austin?
well. It was Jalen Watson's injury,
Huh.
and I don't really, I don't fully understand how losing your cornerback to made the whole defense worse. Like Trent McDuffie has played his worst 3 game stretch, including his worst game as a pro against Broncos of his career, and I mean, the Chiefs forever. I mean, as long as, and this is credit to Brett Veach. Again, I'm not coping. I'm just stating a fact. Credit to Brett Veach, Steve Spagnuolo, and Dave Merritt that they've been able to just go to. I think it was, remember Buddy Bell. I think it was that talked about the third baseman tree.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
How could I forget?
the Chiefs literally actually do have like a defensive back tree that they just seem to be able to go and pluck capable NFL starters from whenever they please. But
Mhm.
they finally hit a wall. And Jalen Watson appears to have been in some way the straw that broke the camel's back. I hope he's going to be able to return for the playoffs. And you know what? Yeah, you said it. I mean, you talked about the dearth of high drafted talent on the offensive side of the ball. Let's talk about FAU, who, yeah, I get it. Like he's playing some snaps and he's shown some improvement in the run game, but like the pass rush is bad right now. The pass
Mhm.
rush is bad, and you spent a first round pick on a pass rusher last year who isn't contributing to your pass rush. Now, hopefully Chuck Omenahu will help solidify the pass rush. Hopefully getting
Mhm.
another really capable guy into that rotation will kind of lift all these guys back up. And Chris Jones is playing a lot of snaps. George Karlaftis is playing a lot of snaps. It's starting to show. Now,
Yeah.
those guys aren't playing as many snaps if they don't have the injury to Charles Omenihu to start. I mean, last season, and he's starting the year on IR. You don't have these guys playing as many snaps if the secondary is more healthy, and you can, back off a little bit of your horses late in the game,
Mhm.
and you don't need those elite players out there to help your, diminished secondary. But these injuries have really just piled up. I kind of get where people are coming from when they say that it was a good thing for the Chiefs to lose this game. It wasn't. It was not a
Sure.
good thing for the Chiefs to lose this game. But like it does in some sense. This sounds like cope. I, I'll cut it off. I'll save this for the
Okay.
end.
I have one more
I'm
accuse.
accusing the injury. Give me
I,
your
I
last
like that
accusation.
accusation. My last accusation is for a star on the team that did not play like it. And I mean, that could go around. But
Yeah,
Travis Kelce, man.
yeah,
Travis Kelce
yeah,
had, you know, I. I don't know how many times this year I'm going to say he had his worst game in X number of games or whatever, but
yeah.
4 targets, 2 catches, 8 yards. Um, what's going on? What the hell was that? He was not injured, and I understand the focus that teams put on him, but let's be honest. Teams have been focusing on Travis Kelce for
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
I mean, this is not a new, if this was 2022 and they had just gotten rid of Tyreek Hill and Chiefs were trying to adjust to life after Tyreek Hill and everyone was doubling and tripling Travis Kelce and they couldn't figure out a way to find him the ball, I understand that. But it's now been 3 years since Tyreek Hill was on this team. And Travis Kelce has been the focus of this offense for 3 years.
yeah,
And this is the first time that they just can't seem to get him the ball. Now, he did lead the NFL for 3 weeks before this in receptions. So they have been able to get him the ball. But in a big game, I don't care if he led the league in catches against these other idiot teams that the Chiefs didn't need to beat. The Chiefs needed to beat the Bills. They needed
yeah,
to use their weapons to beat the Bills. And instead of using Travis Kelce against the Raiders, Bucks, and Broncos, maybe they should have saved some of those awesome plays that he was doing for this game because he didn't have it. And, they spread the ball around a lot. 11 Chiefs caught a pass, not just were targeted, but caught a
Hmm.
pass in this
It's
game,
crazy.
which is crazy. And that includes Mike Caliendo, who caught a 5 yard pass. And it wasn't Kelsey's day. It really wasn't DeAndre Hopkins' day. He had 3 catches for 29 yards. One of them was incredible, but like they targeted him 4 times. in the
Yeah.
passing game. You
Get that guy the ball
stated
more.
throw him the ball every time. What's the worst that
Yeah.
could happen? And
Right.
what is the worst that could happen? And finally, they went away from Xavier Worthy after the sideline play in the
Yeah.
second quarter.
Yeah.
He had
Right.
5 targets, 4 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown in the second quarter. The fifth target was the couldn't keep his feet in bounds, and they just put him in the doghouse. And they never even targeted him. They didn't use their most effective weapon for the whole second half, and I don't get it. So accuse.
This opened up one final accusation for me, and then we'll move on to
Great.
Cope. I have to accuse just the coaching staff as a whole. I'm just going to wrap them all up into a big bow here.
Sure.
I took my wife's car in to get her brakes fixed last week, and I Ubered home, and it was like a 10-minute Uber ride because it's a couple miles from my house. And it was complimentary, which was great. So shout out to Brakes Plus in Johnstown.
Awesome. Our
Really
new
nice.
sponsor next week.
Yeah, great service. And my Uber driver was awesome, but then we're talking about he had taken a power lifter to the airport to fly to Las Vegas earlier that morning, and I mentioned that I had gone to Las Vegas for the Chiefs game, and he asked if I was a Chiefs fan. One thing leads to another. I live in northern Colorado. Next thing you know, we're talking about Broncos Chiefs. Anyway, I tell him, and this is hard for me to admit to a Broncos fan, I was like, look, and this was, a couple days after the Chiefs had beaten the Broncos on the blocked field goal. I told him, I was like, this hardly ever happens, but like the Chiefs were outcoached on both sides of the ball in that game.
Yeah.
It just happened again. 2 games in a row. I mean, the Bills offense had Spags' number, and the Bills defense. I mean, we're talking about Sean McDermott, who is a meme. He's a punching bag.
Yeah.
Like, I get that he is a capable defensive coach. There's a reason he still has a job, and it's not because of his inspiring 9/11 speeches or his playoff record, which is abysmal. I mean, like,
the Bills have won 9 of 11, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, maybe that's what it took, right? Like, he's unlocked his Illuminati powers there, but that's 2 games in a row that Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, who you could argue for either of them individually and certainly collectively, that those are the best coaches in the NFL on their respective sides of the ball. And there's definitely the best coach combination in the NFL, offensive and defensive play caller. It's not even close. This is the second game in a row that a combination offensive and defensive play caller for the opponent has outcoached them. And that's concerning. It's alarming. I don't know what the reason for that is. I know that they're struggling with injuries. I know that they're getting every team's best shot, but man, you cannot have 2 Hall of Famers coaching your offense and defense and get out coached 2 weeks in a row on both sides of the ball. Can't do it. Let's move to Cope, because I feel like I've thrown a couple of them out here. And so I'll start it off. Again, I don't agree with this. Like, it was not good for the Chiefs to lose this game. It's not good for the Chiefs to lose a game. It's cool to go undefeated. It would have been sweet. It would have been amazing to go 20-0 and have the first undefeated season ever and accomplish a three-peat at the same time. However, they lost a game, and losing this game to this team is the worst possible game you could drop on the schedule, because this is the only team in the AFC that can take the 1 seed from you. Like,
correct.
I understand mathematically it's possible for the Steelers to do it. It's possible technically for the Ravens to do it, but like, it's not going to happen. Those teams weren't going to catch you. You're going to beat the Steelers, and this was the only game you needed to win to, if not mathematically, practically lock up the number 1 seed. So this was not a good game to lose. Now it sounds like I'm still accusing.
I get it.
But the Cope is, you're no longer undefeated. The pressure's off. You don't have to win every game. You don't have to keep the streak going. You don't have to worry about the fact that, and we're getting to the part of the season where it's becoming a story. So even if it's not the goal of the team to go undefeated, people are now talking about it. It's a conversation in the locker room. You're being asked about it. It is an additional stressor that is no longer there. And as a corollary to that, and then I want to hear your Cope. Patrick Mahomes came out and said, it wasn't our goal to go undefeated. Okay. All right, Pat. Like, I just talked about this last week. I don't believe for a second that Patrick Mahomes doesn't think it would be cool to go undefeated. Like,
I agree.
If Patrick Mahomes was leading a 16-0 team into Denver in week 18, and Andy Reid said, "You're going to sit for this game." I think he would give the same response he gave when Andy tried to take him off the field in a playoff game.
No, fuck
Fuck
no.
no, fuck
Yeah,
no, right?
yeah.
Like, okay, I get that. But the goal is and has always been, and this is partly just because, again, we talked about it last week, the nature of the windows in which you can have these goals realistically are just completely different. The goal is still the three-peat, and that goal is
Yep.
still on, and that goal can still be accomplished.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable, Cope. I will just point out some facts. The Chiefs have won the last two Super Bowls when losing to the Buffalo Bills in the regular season. So good streak to try and make that three-peat, all three, including Buffalo Bills regular season losses. The Bills, by the way, just so we're all on the same page here, they have won 0 Super Bowls
Yeah.
in their illustrious franchise career.
Ringless
So,
bandits.
ringless indeed. And if the Chiefs do happen to pull off the Super Bowl this year and the three-peat, just so we establish this right now, you and I, are going to be talking about the reverse Buffalo for an entire year. For 52 podcast episodes, we are going to be talking about how the Chiefs are not going for the four-peat or the quad-peat or the whatever the fuck. We're going to be saying they're going for the reverse Buffalo, which is 4 Super Bowl appearances, 4 Super Bowl victories, and of course, that is the reverse for what happened to the Bills. The Chiefs still have the 1 seed for now. And so losing a game in week 11 and still having
cushion,
still being the top team in your league is pretty hard to do. That's not really usually
losing a team to the team in second place.
To the team in second. Absolutely.
Yeah,
you lost a game to them and you lose the tiebreaker to them. So you had to have had a 2-game clearance, and the Chiefs did. And now they have a half-game clearance, so they are now still the 1 seed. The Bills' next 3 games, as are going to be the test for them, and it's going to be home against the Niners, who are up and down but certainly capable. Then at the Rams, Matt Stafford's been playing a lot better lately, and finally at the Lions. And we all know what a freaking wagon the Lions are right now. And if the Bills go 2-1 in that stretch, I think the Chiefs are going to have a really hard time getting the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the Chiefs are going to win out. That'd be crazy if they went 16-1. But the Bills got to drop another 2 games for the rest of the year, and their last games go Patriots, Jets, Patriots. So unless they can somehow screw up that, which would be the first time. But okay, so the cope of course is that the Bills have a hard schedule. The Chiefs are still the one. The Chiefs are still in the driver's seat for the bye, which is an automatic playoff win, and Arrowhead getting home field advantage. So things are still okay. The Chiefs could have done what all these other AFC teams did, all of them, which is lose games they shouldn't have lost. And frankly, what the Chiefs have done every year for a while, which is that they lose idiots. They do, and they haven't yet. And that doesn't mean, I don't think that the Chiefs are destined to lose a game that they shouldn't every year. I just mean that some of those games this year that would have qualified as losing a game that they shouldn't have, they won those games. They won the Denver game. They won Tampa Bay. They won some stuff that they should, or they could have lost. And instead, the Cincy game was absolutely over. It was 4th and 16, and they pull it off. And so the Chiefs are still fine. They're still in good shape for the playoffs and good shape to go for the three-peat. And, it's just it was just shitty to watch them finally lose a game for the first time in 11 months.
I just to add to and then I have one final one to close this out, just to add to the Bills' schedule, right? Like these next 2 games against the Niners and the Rams, those teams are both 5-5. And I think at this point in the season, it's hard to say whether that means those teams aren't that good.
Yeah, right.
Or those teams are good and they're about to get desperate. And they're about to play with their backs against the walls. The Niners in particular, I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but they actually have started slow each of the last several years. And
sure.
They sort of have found themselves hovering around 500 each of the last several years, and then they close incredibly strong. They're almost always the number 1 or the number 2 seed in the NFC, and then they've made deep runs to the championship game and to the Super Bowl each of the last 4 seasons. And, they could be in for a little bump like that. And the same thing really with the Rams. The Rams are getting healthier and they are on the bubble. And both of those teams, by the way, are now behind the Arizona Cardinals in their division. So
That's right.
nothing's
given to them. Nothing's
given to them.
Yep,
It's a very competitive playoff race, and those teams need to play their best ball. And
do you remember a team last year that was around 500 that caught fire at the end of the year and ended up being a pretty good playoff showing? That was, of course, the Buffalo Bills, who had lost some games early. We wondered if they were going to make the playoffs. They could have either been out of the playoffs in the final week or the 2 seed. They ended up getting the 2 seed. But so if you're fighting tooth and nail every single week, sometimes that does you some good. And so these teams here, that Buffalo might be feeling real cocky and confident, thinking this is our year. We beat the Chiefs. We're 9-2. We're having this is one of the best starts they've had in a while.
And did you see how they were celebrating this win?
Yes. I mean, they won the Super Bowl. Well, they don't know how to celebrate that.
I actually was a little bit surprised because they'd beaten us in the regular season a bunch of times before.
Four times in a row.
It felt different. Like this one meant more to them for some reason, which doesn't make any sense to me because we've seen this exact story play out before.
Sure.
It looked like they just beat us in the playoffs, and they didn't. They beat us in
Austin. What's going to happen
11.
if the Chiefs beat the Bills in the playoffs this year? What's going to happen? Is McDermott going to get fired?
He should.
What if they go 14-3 and they lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs in the AFC Championship game?
I
think he could get fired.
McDermott should quit is what should happen. He should say, I never want to get beaten by the Chiefs in the playoffs again.
He should quit coaching football.
He should quit coaching football, and he should go give inspirational speeches about 9/11 instead.
Dude, Marty got fired after a 14-2 year because he couldn't beat the Patriots.
Yeah, right, exactly. And Marty had a track record of losing in the playoffs, both with the Chiefs and with San Diego. And then
he did.
They had a great year. They lost to the Patriots, and he got canned. So Marty was there for a while, and McDermott's been there for a long time. I think there is something to be said for, Marvin Lewis engineered the greatest stretch in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals franchise. He didn't win a single playoff game, and eventually he got canned because
it was too much.
Regular season success doesn't count for that much. I think he absolutely would be on the chopping block, and if he wasn't, I think he should chop himself. Let me do one more final cope here, and then we'll move on to to Carolina. We do love coping, and there's a lot of it to go around this week. We didn't do awards, so I will just very briefly give a shout out to our new followers on Blue Sky, who during the game repeatedly were telling me Jamari Connor was having an all-time wildcard game, which he was.
Yeah, he was.
So shout out to all of our new followers on Blue Sky. It was great to see people talking about the Chiefs system and our awards as the game was happening. Very thrilling for us. We enjoyed that quite a bit. But I'll give you a final piece of cope here, which was, man, the interceptions were not great plays, and obviously the overall numbers don't look that good, but Pat was throwing some darts in this game. I don't have the exact tally of tight window throws in front of me, but I am just anecdotally, just what my eyes were telling me, this has to have been close to a record for him personally, if not a record for him personally, in terms of the number of tight window throws he both attempted and completed in this game. He was throwing some absolute darts in this game. And I think that's never really been his game, not because he can't do it, but because he's never really needed to do it. The design of the offense and the skill players around him and his own abilities to manipulate the pocket and manipulate defenders with his arms and his eyes and his legs, he's never needed to throw a lot of tight window throws because he just gets people open and finds the players who are open.
Right.
If he can't do that anymore, and I'm not saying that he can't, because we have seen it in stretches this year, and if Hollywood Brown's going to be back, look out. I think that will be a huge lift for the offense. If Xavier Worthy ever learns how to stay in bounds, that will be a huge lift for the offense. But what if Patrick Mahomes just decided, fuck it, I'm going to throw him. I'm going to throw darts. I'm just going to thread the needle. He had one to Nick Hopkins in this game
Oh
that
my God, it was so
I,
good.
it took me like two replays before I was like, okay, I see how the ball got into his hands. But like the
Yeah.
first when I watched it live, I was like, how did that get through the defender's hands and into Nick Hopkins's hands? I don't understand it. Same thing with one of those throws to Worthy. I think it was the last one before his unfortunate incompletion. He like hit him in stride, like as he was going between a couple of defenders, and it
Yeah.
basically just teleported into his hands as he's running in between a couple of guys. And again, it's just one of those throws where you hardly ever see him attempt throws like that. And he was not only attempting them in this game, but just like hitting shot after shot and dime after dime. And let's say he like decides that's going to be a part of his game and he just happens
Yeah.
to be really good at it. Like,
Yeah.
couldn't you see the Chiefs playoff offense showing up, right? And like you get Hollywood Brown back. You get some kind of clarity at left tackle. And then suddenly in the playoffs, the spacing in the offense is a little bit better because you've got Worthy, hopefully making some strides. You've got Hollywood Brown back out there. And then in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs have a gotta have it drive. And he suddenly just unleashes like six of those throws in a row. And he destroys Sean McDermott's Bills defense,
Goes
for
nuclear.
another game-winning drive in the playoffs. And he's just throwing dime after dime into tight windows. And Hollywood is catching it, and Nook is catching it, and Xavier Worthy is catching it. And I mean, like we saw it in this game. It was sort of like a preview of what could happen, 3 months from now. And I liked it. It was fun. That was cool.
That's
And
good cope. That's
it's
good
good.
cope.
It's good cope. It's good cope. That felt good. It felt cleansing. Let's very briefly talk about the Chiefs game this weekend. Chiefs are traveling to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. Uh, there's not a whole lot of point in breaking down both sides of the ball in this game. The Panthers are riding a two-game winning streak, which is wild. They have 3 wins, so they have accrued 66% of their season win total in the last 2 weeks. They did so
Crazy.
over the New York Giants, who just benched Daniel Jones, and the New Orleans Saints, who beat them 47-10 in week 1 and then lost to them 23-22 2 weeks ago on November 3rd. So, and then fired their coach, Dennis Allen. So we have a benched quarterback. We have a fired head coach in their last 2 victories. The Chiefs are not going to do either of those things, regardless of the outcome of this game. But, despite the 3 wins that they have accrued this season, again, all over teams that have 3 or fewer wins themselves, the Raiders, the Saints, and the Giants, this is not a good team. The Chiefs are comfortably better. They should win this game, and they should win this game easily. They won't because
Yeah, right. We've said that
they
before.
they never do. But anything you want to talk about with this game?
Sure. Let me take you back to November 8th, 2020, Arrowhead Stadium.
Oh,
2-6 Panthers. Sorry, 3-5 Panthers against 7-1 Chiefs.
oh yeah.
Halftime score: Carolina 17, Kansas City 13. Ferrari right was used in this game.
Yeah.
The motion, Mahomes in motion, catching the snap and throwing a touchdown to Demarcus Robinson. CMC was in this game, scored a touchdown, and at the end of the game, the Panthers, after scoring a touchdown with 13 minutes left to cut the lead to 2, the Chiefs never scored again. And the Panthers had a extremely long field goal attempt to win the game. I think it was 61 yards, if I remember correctly. And they missed it. And the Chiefs won 33-31. And it was a escape type of win. It was the same type of win that the Chiefs have had this year. They moved to 8-1 at that time in the season, and they went on to play in the Super Bowl in 2020. And so what my point is, even if this game is a 2-point last second Chiefs victory, as we've seen plenty of times this year, it's okay. Don't fret. That's just what the Chiefs do. That's what I do, Ernie. I make it close.
It was a 67-yarder. I just looked it up by Joey Slye. A 67-yard attempt, which would be an NFL record if he had hit it. He, of course, did not, and the Chiefs snuck away with the victory. And that 2020 season is sort of infamous in Chiefs franchise lore for the Chiefs just winning all of those games by one score and
Correct.
going on that incredible, remarkable streak. And then they weren't able to sustain that in the playoffs, of course. I'm excited to see, we talked about this a little bit in the injury section, the possible return of Isaiah Pacheco and especially Charles Omenihu to the lineup. I think both of those players adds something to their respective side of the ball. It feels like right now the defense needs a boost. I'm not that the offense doesn't need a boost and getting Pacheco back would be big, but adding another running back to this team, I don't know. Now, Pacheco does provide a unique brand of energy that I think certainly could be helpful to the
Some
offense,
pop.
right? Just some pop. They don't call him pop for nothing. And I think the energy that he brings, have any analytics to back this up, but he could be a little shot in the arm, which would be great. Charles Omenihu is necessary. Like he needs to get back into the lineup sooner rather than later. The defensive line, which was so good earlier in the year, they're running on fumes right now, and they need an injection of energy on that side of the ball. And this was a guy that was playing incredibly well last season for the Chiefs before he went down in the AFC Championship game. So I guess I want to see the defense get back on track. I mean, this is 3 weeks in a row. We talked about it where they've basically had their 3 worst performances of the season in a row consecutively against the Buccaneers, the Broncos, and then this week against the Bills. 3 B teams in a row. So maybe that's what it is. Now we're playing a P. Now we're playing a P team. Maybe the defense can get back on track. I don't know.
That has to be how it works. But I do think that we need to caution ourselves, even if the Chiefs look really good against the Carolina Panthers. A lot of teams have looked really good against the Carolina Panthers. So,
but wouldn't it be fun for us to look good against the Carolina Panthers? Because we don't.
It'd be fun to look good against anyone once, ever.
Like
when was the last time the Chiefs looked good?
Well, I was going to say it was probably 2 years ago. The Chiefs did not have a good regular season.
2 years ago, they won 2 Super Bowls.
Okay, I know. I'm saying. I'm thinking about 3 years ago. 2 years ago, they actually had a very good regular season. I'm thinking about 3 years ago. The last time that they just like beat the brakes off of a team, it was the year that they beat the brakes off the Raiders twice in the middle of games where they were scoring like 10 points and winning like 10-7.
Correct.
Like they did against the Packers and the Cowboys and the Giants that year. It would be fun.
Those Raiders get-right games were really nice. They were so necessary during that stretch. Oh, my God.
And when's the last time we had a get-right game like that? I mean, like, we had some comfortable wins in 2022 and some good wins in 2023, but, like, I mean... Just give me the Bears game, Taylor Swift's debut.
The first Taylor Swift game, so it's her fault.
That's pretty good. I don't know. Maybe we need what's she up to this weekend? Is she going to be in North Carolina? Okay. All right. Let's not get out of hand here. I would like to see the offense get back on track in this game. And, again, like, I'm not really that worried about the offense yet, especially, with the news that Hollywood Brown is almost certainly now going to be back for the playoffs.
Right.
The offense has done some good things this year. They haven't been very consistent, but they've done some good things. You can see the pieces there, and they showed me they didn't do enough on Sunday, but they showed me enough on Sunday for me to feel like they can get to where they need to be in January and February. Will they get there? I don't know, but I think they can get there. I think they have the talent to get there. I think they have the coaching to get there. I don't know if we're going to see it on Sunday. This Panthers defense is really bad. It's really not good at all. And, the Chiefs just don't, they don't pull out their best stuff against teams like the Carolina Panthers. So they probably aren't going to explode for 40 points in this game. But you know what? Defense allowed 30. Let's get the offense to score 30, right? Like let's get some points on the board against this Carolina Panthers team. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It should hopefully be an easy win. If it's not, next week is going to be really dark, but it's always sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. We'll see you next time.